Okay, so welcome everyone to the International Communications Filing System Satellite Space Station Forms External Demo. My name is Jacob. I'm with the development team. Uh, we also have with us here Kathleen. She is the point person we have with the FCC for this project. I also want to give her a chance to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm Kathleen Campbell, currently in charge of ICFS. I'll be retiring at the end of August, and Adrian McNeil, who is also here, will be taking over as the person in charge of ICFS beginning in September. So I wanted to let you all know that. As we go through this, if you have questions, please type them in the chat. There'll be opportunities for either Adrian or I to answer your questions as after demo periods that Jacob will be going through. So you don't have to wait till the end. If there's something we can't answer, we'll get back to you. If you think of something after the demo, send us an email to icfsdemo@fcc.gov. There's a screenshot. There's a screen coming up that will show you that. Excuse me. And these recordings will be placed in the FCC YouTube channel, as well as have links on various spots on the fcc.gov website for you to be able to revisit in the future. Okay, off to Jacob.
Great, thank you, Kathleen. And I'm going to read a couple of statements here as well, just reiterating all of that. So this user demonstration will be recorded for future training usage. By attending, you agree to be recorded. And to ask questions, you may, of course, make use of the meeting chat. And I will also be stopping periodically so that Kathleen and Adrienne can answer the questions you have submitted via chat. Additionally, you may email your questions after the meeting to icfsdemo@fcc.gov. That's this email address right here. All right, and the overview of the International Communications Filing System is the official electronic licensing and filing system for the Federal Communication Commission's Space Bureau and Office of International Affairs. So, if you are looking to apply for any international communications infrastructure, be that a space station, satellite, Earth station, submarine cable, whatever it is, this is the place you would go. National Communications Filing System. And each of our, we call them subsystems, has multiple filing request types, and each filing request type requires one or more completed forms. And while there are many common steps for filing requests, there are also filing variations based on the service category, request type, and FCC filing requirements. So today we are going to be focusing on the satellite space station's subsystem. And we are not going to have a second session next week. We're going to do it all today. All right, and for the SAT forms, we're going to be demoing today the new authorization form. So this is kind of the form on which all of the other forms are going to be based. And basically, in order to fill out one of these forms here, there has to kind of already exist a new authorization form. And also, all of these forms, except special temporary authority, are going to be pretty much the same form. Like you're going to have to fill out the Form 312 main in addition to a supplemental form. So for these three, you would be filling out a Form 312 main form plus a Schedule S. For these two, it would be the Form 312 main form plus a Schedule A, and we're going to look into those. We're going to look into the supplemental Schedule A form today. I'm going to do a separate demo on the Schedule S at 1 o'clock today. And this form is slightly different, and I'm going to quickly touch on that one as well. Before we begin, I'm going to quickly go over registering with the FCC. Now, many of you are going to already be familiar with this process or have FCC CORS accounts, but ICFS users must be registered with the FCC and have an FCC username, password, FCC registration number, or FRN, to log in and submit FCC filing requests in ICFS. And you use the following steps to register with the FCC. You go to this URL and you open that course registration page. You select register when you're on that page, and it will give you instructions on how to create your account and also how to create new FRNs or associate FRNs with your account. That's going to be very important if you're going to be filling out applications in the ICFS website. And if you want additional information, you can go to the FCC registration frequently asked questions page. Great. So I'm going to go ahead and get to the demo of the general user interface before I demo the SAT subsystem. So we're going to go over accessing your home page, your quick search page, and getting to that. We're going to talk about saving applications as draft versus submitting them. The search bar and the advanced search functionality that you have available on your homepage, and the helpful links tab, and the My Inbox tab. So let's begin the demo. So I'm going to start as if I were logging in as an external user. So I'm going to go to this URL right here. And I'm going to go straight to login when I'm on this page. And if it's a white screen like this, you can always just refresh the page. Great. And I'm going to enter my username and password, which I created when I registered for course. Right, and here I am at my home page. Now, if I'm going to file an application, the first thing I'm going to go do is go to the Start New Application tab. And here I have the ability to really file any type of application that is available to file in the International Communications Filing System. Since we're doing the space stations demo, you would go here to Satellite Space Stations. And let me just quickly open a new form just to show you what that looks like. So, yeah, when you get into this new form and you save it as draft after typing a value into any of these fields, a new draft application is going to be created in the ICFS system. Also, this Edit Schedule S button appears, which you can use to navigate to your supplemental Schedule S. As I said, I'll be having a separate demo for that at 1 o'clock. But yes, and as long as the application is in draft state, you can come back here and find your application in your My Filings and make any edits you want. And then once you've filled out every required field, there's going to be a Review to Submit button that's going to appear here that you can use to submit the application. And when you submit an application, a couple of things happen. Your application, first of all, becomes publicly viewable. It goes through an FCC review process, and also a a call sign is generated for the application so that any further amendments that you make to the application or modifications or any other form that you create based on your original form, based on your original license application, is going to inherit that call sign. And that's going to be important later. And I'm going to be going over this again, so if it's not clear yet, as we proceed in the demo, I hope it will be clearer. So let me now go to your ICFS quick search and advanced search functionality. So it's right here on your homepage. There's a number of criteria you can search by under the quick search field. You can search by file number, call sign, FRN, pleadings and comments, and that will take you to any that will allow you to better narrow down your search for different filings that have already been made in the system. Like I said, any submitted filing is going to be publicly viewable. So, and we have here like our tabs. So this is going to display any public notices that have been generated in the last 7 days. This is going to display any applications that have been submitted in the last 7 days. This recent action will display any actions that have been taken on any filings in the last 7 days. So actions are basically done by internal users in regards to a submitted application. It might be granting or even denying. And also, this tab will have any recent pleadings and comments. All right, and we also have our advanced search right here. So here we have a lot more fields to filter on to find applications. You can also select different subsystems here under the service field. If we select the SAT subsystem, we're going to get more SAT-specific fields that we can filter on. We can select geostationary, and that will present us with basically orbit locations, basically the exact spot where this geostationary satellite is going to be over the Earth's surface, and all of the information pertaining to that. And also you get your frequency upper and lower bounds. When you use these two search fields right here, basically you will see in the search results any frequency that overlaps with the parameters you specify. So if you enter like 100,000 megahertz in the lower and 150 in the upper bound of your frequency, you're going to see a frequency band that's 125 to 175. So let me go ahead and actually do a search here. So here we have all of our SAT applications in the system, since we just selected that field, and geostationary and nothing else. All of the geostationary SAT applications. And yeah, the applications that appear here are going to be all of the submitted applications in the system and any drafts that relate to you. So you can't see anyone else's drafts, but you can see your own. So I think that about covers it for advanced search. And I want to also go to the ICFS, sorry, the helpful links page. So here you can find a number of useful links. So we have a list of all the satellites currently in the system. We also have your ICFS helpline, which you can call if you're having any difficulties filling out an application. We also have this icfsinfo@fcc.gov, the email you saw before. This is the FCC fees link. You can go here to get fee information, which could come in handy because on these applications, you actually have to select which fee code applies to them. So it's good to be able to look up the fee codes and when they are applicable. Also show you the My Inbox feature. So this is basically going to display for you system notifications pertaining to your applications. And there's a number of different events that might trigger a notification. And we're actually going to get into a few of those today. So I think that pretty much does it for our general external demo of the general landing page features. So before I get into the satellite's space station subsystem, I want to stop and give Kathleen a chance to answer any questions that have appeared in our chat.
Well, I typed two answers, but I will go ahead and tell you what they are. It says, what do the print and gear icons on the right-hand side of the advanced query results do? So to print, it prints results in the advanced search ones. The results set.
Oh yeah, we're asking about these basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So the print prints it, sets up a print window and you print it to PDF or print it to a printer or whatever, like any other kind of print button. The download is supposed to be able to download it to CSV or Excel. In one or two cases I've seen that work. It does not work here right now. And the gear is generally a ServiceNow feature that allows you to rearrange or add columns, remove some of the columns that are there by default. So if you wanted to start out with call sign instead of file number, you would just rearrange them. Could you click the gear again, please, Jacob? And we can see if it works. So you would go up to the top and highlight the call sign auth ID on the right-hand side.
Okay. Yeah.
If you wanted to rearrange it, and then you would use the up arrow to make it be above the file number. And then when you say OK, it should rearrange the page. The call sign is there. So that's what that is. On the left-hand side of that window that pops up, it's all of the fields that you could view. Some of them won't make sense to you. You hit the gear again.
Oh, okay.
Because it's like the questions on answers. But if there's some dates or something else you want to see in your result set, you can pick it and use the left and right arrows to move it from side to side, and use the up and down arrows to move the order around of the columns. That's how those work. And in the advanced, okay, the advanced for pleadings and comments. I don't know if we have a lot of pleadings and comments in the system right now, but the advanced tab for pleadings and comments will uploaded documents be shown in order of which they are filed. That's a good question. I don't know. I think they should be, but also you can click on the top of the header of the column, and it should sort A to Z, Z to A, and which will give you ascending or descending order. So right now it doesn't look like they're in created order because it looks like they're in pleading. I don't know. But if you click on that, It'll reorder it so that the newest are at the top, oldest are at the top. And it's an easy click button.
Okay.
And then wait a second, one more. Renee asks if you have to sign in to the filing portal in order to get copies of public notices and other filings. You should not have to. If you first go to the page, all the information besides starting a new application should be available to you. The advanced search, we have a defect that it's not available if you're not logged in right now. We will work to fix that, but the quick search should be there, and so should all the recent anythings, because that's public information and it should be. Jacob's logged in now, so I'll know for sure. But if not, it will be.
All right. If those were all the questions,
Yep.
I will go ahead. Awesome. I'll go ahead and move on to the next part of our demo, which is the SAT subsystem specific part. So I'm going to go over the starting of a new application. So I'm going to go over the base form, which is the SAT LIC with you. And that's also going to give you pretty much a full demo of the Form 312 main. We'll look at submitting the form and paying the filing fees after submission. We'll look at amendments and modifications. I'll touch on STAs a little bit, and also we'll look at transfers and assignments. And finally, I'll also look at pleadings and comments. So let me start by going to a test application that I pretty much already had made out. Okay, it's right here. So as you can see, this is the My Filings page, by the way. So the filings that you see here are all going to be either filed by you, or they're going to be related to you in some way. It may be that your FRN was specified as the applicant FRN, or you were mentioned as a party on a TCASD form. But this is where you're going to find all of the filings pertaining to you, and they're going to be organized by the application state. So you can see your drafts are up here. Applications in a state of pending payments are right here. Applications in pending review state are right here. And you'll also see any applications that have already been approved down here. The state for that is current. So let me open our SAT LOA. And let me do a brief rundown of the fields you have. So first you have this brief description fields. It's really just here so you can identify your application, and you can put pretty much anything you want. Right here we have the applicant FRN fields. So when you enter an FRN into this field, the information you see here is populated pretty much from cores. So whenever this FRN was created in cores, whatever information you supplied for that FRN is going to be auto-populated into these fields. And when this application is submitted, the call sign that is generated is going to be associated with this applicant FRN. That's another important thing. And down here, we have the contact FRN. Now, it is a mandatory field, but you are free to specify the same FRN as the contact FRN, and it will auto-populate everything, just as you saw with the applicant FRN. and you're able to edit any of these fields down here. You specify a relationship between your contact FRN and your applicant FRM. So maybe that they're the same, and it may be that the applicant FRN is an entity of some kind, like a corporation, and the contact info is the legal counsel or representative of that organization. It's really up to you. Right here, we have our classification of filing drop down. So for the SAT subsystem, you're going to have 4 choices here. Application for license of new station, replacement of satellite application, or no new frequency bands, replacement satellite application, new frequency bands. And you're also going to be able to select petition for declaratory ruling for US market access. Right, and this is the application fees section. You can see that when you select yes, that to the question, will a fee be paid? You are going to have to supply the fee codes that are appropriate for the application. And you can find more information in the application instructions for how to determine what is the correct fee code to supply here. And then if you select no, you're going to have to give a reason for the exemption. And you have the choice of governmental entity, non-commercial educational license, or other, and you can supply your own value there. I'm going to leave it the way it is and continue. Here we have our waivers section, and here you can specify if the applicant is requesting a waiver to any of the commission's rules. If you select yes, you have to list all of your rule sections that you want to have a waiver for, and also attach documentation just explaining the waiver request. Right, and down here we have the type of service drop down, and you can select any of these, and you can select multiple as well. You can also select other, and you can write your explanation here. And this is the status column. So here you specify whether you're operating as a common carrier or a non-common carrier or NA. And down here, you can specify if you are an international common carrier service, whether your satellite is going to be connected to the public switch network. If it is, you would have to fill out a Section 214 filing. I think most people are going to check NA though. And here we have our frequency bands list, and you are going to have to select at least one of these. You can also select other if your frequency band is not on the list, and specify it there in this box. Let's go to type of station. So you have 3 choices for satellite space stations. You can specify it as geostationary, doesn't move relative to the Earth's surface, non-geostationary, if it is in an orbit, and also non-geostationary with small satellites or small spacecraft. And you're also going to have to specify the estimated operational lifetime of your space station, the space station satellite network name. These fields are also going to appear on your Schedule F, and we'll get into that in the next demo. And we have these 2 fields down here. So 25D, does the applicant intend to use a non-US licensed satellite to provide service in the United States? If you select yes, you need to attach an exhibit file right here explaining that. Here in 25E, you're going to be asked about information about the administration that has licensed or is in the process of licensing your space station. And if no license is issued, what administration has coordinated or is in the process of coordinating the space station. So that's an optional field that you can fill out. And we also have our environmental policy checkbox here. So it's basically asking you, would a commission grant any proposal in this application or amendment? I'm sorry, would a commission grant of any proposal in this application or amendment have a significant environmental impact as defined by this rule section? And you could also have a link to this rule section if you click that question mark. And if the answer is yes, you're going to attach an exhibit file. Right. And let me really quickly go over the alien ownership section. So this is asking you questions like, is the applicant a foreign government? Is the applicant a representative of a foreign government? Is the applicant a corporation that was organized under the laws of a foreign government, etc.? And if the answer to any of these is yes, you're going to attach an exhibit file right here. And this is the basic qualifications section. They're asking you questions like, has the applicant or any party to the application ever been convicted of a felony or had a license revoked? And if the answer is yes to any of those, you're going to attach a file explaining those circumstances. Down here, let me quickly go over the anti-drug certification. You can check that or uncheck that. This is the application description field right here. You can use it to to supply a more detailed description of your space station services. And this is the geographic service certification. So you're going to specify here if the applicant is not subject to the geographic service or geographic coverage requirements specified in this rule section. If it is subject to those requirements and will comply with those requirements, if it is subject to those requirements and will not comply because it is not technically feasible, if you select that option, you will have to supply a technical analysis, just explaining the reasoning for that. Down here we have our attachments and confidential treatment of attachments section. So here you have the ability to select that you are seeking confidential treatment of attachments, and if you make that selection, you're going to be able to mark an attachment confidential. If you do that, you will have to supply a confidential, non-redacted version of your attachment, plus a public redacted version, and you're also going to supply an explanation for that confidential treatment.
And there should be a line that requires that and show up here. And that's a defect that we will be fixing.
Yes. Right, and down here we have the certification section. And you're going to supply, these are all required fields, the first name, the last name, the title, and the signature of the person signing. And it should be a party authorized to sign. If you need further information on what constitutes a party authorized to sign the application, you can refer to the application instructions. And so we've gone through the whole application. And if we were to, for example, leave a required field blank, let me leave this one blank. It should show up down here in red, so required information. You can click on that and it will take you directly to that field. And once you have filled out all the required fields and you have filled out a Schedule F, which I've already done for this application, you're going to be able to click this Review to Submit button. So let's do that here. All right, and once I've done that and everything looks good, the Submit button is going to appear here. So I'm going to click OK. And when I submit, it's going to give me the new file number for the submitted application. And it's also going to give me a link to the application summary page, so we can go there real quick. This application summary page will also be available to the public. You're going to see the call sign that was created for your application right here. That's very important. That's one that you'll want to keep for your records. All right. So I also want to go to the pay filing fees action. So after you submitted that application with filing fees, this should show up in your pending payment applications. So when you go to pay filing fees, you can see the application is there in the list of applications to send to course. I can click on the application here and I can actually select multiple at once. And when I click this Send to Course button, it's disabled right now. It's a defect that we're working on. But when we click that Send to Course button, that fee information is going to go over to course. And actually a new tab is going to open to the course page. You're going to be able to log in there, and you should be able to find that fee information in course, and you should also be able to initiate payments there. If you select multiple applications here at once, they will appear, I'm sorry, they will all get the same remittance ID. And when you go to course, all of their fees are going to be combined basically into one fee that you'll be able to pay all at once. Also, they will be moved from this list down to this list because this list is displaying applications that do not have a remittance ID yet. And when you send it over to course, course is going to supply a remittance ID. That means they will display down here. So while we're not able to do the pay filing fees action here, we are able to do it in the My Filing. So let me show you the other way to do this. So we have the application we just submitted here, and we're able to open it under our pending payments list. And when I click that, it will take me to a summary page, and it's going to present a modal immediately with payment instructions. So I can click Send to Course from here, and it's going to open, like I said, the course page in a separate tab. And it's also going to provide the application with a remittance ID. So if I go back to this pay filing fees page, you're actually going to see that application now appearing down here because it now has a remittance ID. And one more thing I want to note about this. So this application's fee information is only going to appear for course accounts that are associated with the applicant FRN. So whatever FRN you specified there, you have to log in as a user in course here who has that FRN. If you are, then you will see it in your course account. If you're not associated with that FRN, you're not going to see it. All right, so I think that covers everything I want to say about filing fees. I also want to say a quick word about amendments and modifications. So, as I said before, you're able to come back and edit draft applications anytime you want, as long as they're associated with you. Once you submit an application, you cannot edit it anymore directly. But what you can do if you still need to make a change is file an amendment on the application. So an amendment is, you're basically, when you open an amendment on an application, it's going to kind of clone all of the information from that application into the amendment. And then you're going to change any fields that you want to change. And then you're going to submit that amendment. When that amendment gets approved, all of the changed information that you supplied is going to be copied over to your original application. So it will be updated to your new information that you supplied in the amendment. And then that amendment's going to be closed, but that application will be updated accordingly. Modifications work a little bit differently. So modifications are what you would fill out if your application had already been approved and was in current stat and had an application state of current, and you still wanted to make changes to it. And it would be a similar process. It's just that when a modification gets approved, that modification then becomes the current application, and the original application is closed. But it's pretty much the same, and it's going to basically look the same to you. So when I open this, you're going to see that the file we just submitted appears in this list of applications to amend. So if I open that, immediately the system is going to create a new draft amendment, and I can basically fill out whatever I want to here, change whatever I want. And in order to submit an amendment, I also have to resubmit the Schedule S. So I have to go back into the Schedule S and resubmit that as well. But the validation process is pretty much going to be the same. In order to submit it, you need to fill out all the required fields. But yeah, once you've filled out the Schedule S, submitted the Schedule S, and filled out all the required fields, that review to submit button is going to appear just like before, and you'll be able to submit it. All right. And let me see. I did also want to go over STAs real quick. So let me go to a test STA filing. Now, STAs are special temporary authorities, and they can be filed for lots of reasons. It might be related to a temporary situation like a disaster or something like that, or any other kind of temporary circumstance that requires a party who is not the original applicant to have temporary authorization to use a certain space station. So let's find where I had that. Yeah, this was it. So this is the STA application I wanted to show you. So a lot of the fields are the same. You're going to enter the applicant FRN, contact information. It's just that down here, you're going to specify the call sign of the application of the space station that you want to have access to. So yeah, that's obviously a very important field. You can also optionally select the file number related to that space station. Um, and then it's going to be a lot of the same fields down here. You're going to enter temporary orbit location and other information related to your STA. All right. And then let's go over assignments and transfers. So there may come a time after you have already submitted and been granted an authorization for a space station that you want to organize either a transfer of the control of that space station or a reassignment of that authorization to another party. So for that, we use TC-ASG forms. And let me open an example of a SAT ASG form. That's right here. So for that, like I said before, you're going to fill out a Form 312 main, just like you would for any other of the SAT forms. And it's going to be pretty much all the same required fields. So you're going to provide kind of a description, I guess, of the satellite space station that you're going to be transferring. And when you save as draft, you're going to see this button here, Edit Schedule A. And this is where you're going to fill out information about the different parties to your application. So you're going to supply the FRN of the current licensee, the FRN of the transferor or assignor. In a lot of cases, that's going to be the same as the licensee. And then you're going to give the name of the transferee or assignee. So whoever is going to receive the rights to control your space station, that's where you're going to put that FRN right here. And you're going to list the call signs that are going to be transferred. And the choices that you have down here to select from are going to be all of the call signs that are currently assigned to the licensee FRN that you supplied here. If the licensee doesn't have any call signs, then you're not going to be able to fill this field out and complete the form because the licensee doesn't have any call signs to transfer. Okay. And this also, there's some important things to say about this signature section. So essentially, each of the parties involved in this transfer is going to have to separately sign this application. And the initial filer, unless they have an FRN of one of these parties, they're not going to be able to sign it themselves. So basically, somebody who has an account in ICFS that is associated with each of these FRNs. So for example, if someone had an account associated with this FRN,
Jacob,
they
you're
would
starting
be
to break up.
Am I? Oh. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you say about 5 words and then it cracks out.
Not sure what the problem could be.
Well, that's better. It happened once earlier, but just now it happened again. But you're fine.
Okay.
You're fine right now.
Awesome. I guess just let me know if I need to repeat anything. Yeah, sorry about that. But if you are a user account if you have a user account that is associated with that FRN that was identified here as a party to the application, you're going to be able to see this ASG application in your My Filings. You're going to be able to go into this application and into the Schedule A, and you're going to be able to sign the signature box associated with your role. So if you're associated with a licensee FRN, then you're going to be able to edit this signature box right here. If you are associated with the assignee FRN, you will only be able to fill out these two signature fields, and you won't be able to fill out anything else. So you'll be able to come in here, you'll see the application in your My Filings, you'll be able to fill this part out, and you won't be able to fill out anything else. So if you choose to sign it, then you have supplied a required signature, and you're going to need to have all three signatures in order to submit this Schedule A. So once we have all three signatures, and we do already have it for this application, we can then submit our Schedule A. So let's do that. So we're going to click Review to Submit, as we saw before. Then I'm going to click Submit. It's going to ask me, are you sure you want to submit this application? I'm going to click OK here. You're just going to have to leave. Once you click Leave, it will redirect you back to your Form 312 main, which is associated with the Schedule A, and you won't be able to go back to the Schedule A anymore. Also, now that we've submitted our Schedule A, we're going to see this Review to Submit button on the Form 312 main. I'm going to review to submit that. And now I'm going to submit. And we have submitted our assignment application. So there's now going to be a review process behind the scenes, which the FCC is going to carry out. And once they have granted this assignment, there's going to be one more step. So you're going to have to consummate it. So when they grant your ASG application, the ASG application then goes to changes its application state, not to current, but to pending consummation. And when it is in pending consummation, that's when all the parties who have agreed to this transfer or assignment are going to have to consummate the transfer. And when it is in pending consummation, it's going to appear on a list of applications under the consummate action. So if we go to consummate right now, I already have an application made out that is in pending consummation status that was filed by this user. And here, when you click on this, you're going to supply the date on which the application was consummated. So you can supply any date, but if it is more than 30 days in the past for SAT applications, you can still consummate it, but you are going to have to submit a pleadings and comments form explaining why your consummation date happened so long ago. Basically, why you waited 30 days or more in order to notify the FCC about your consummation. But it will still let you consummate. So I'm going to click done here. And once you click done, there's one more step. You have to click consummate. So I click consummate, and it's going to ask me in a confirmation message, or are you sure you want to consummate the application? And when I click OK, it's going to give me the confirmation message, and that will fully complete the consummation process. The application is now in consummated status or consummated state. If it's an assignment, then the transfer of the call sign will automatically happen from the current licensee to the transferee or to the assignee. So the assignee is now going to be the owner of that call sign when this happens. And since I mentioned that you're going to have to file pleadings and comments if your consummation date was more than 30 days in the past, let me go right to the pleadings and comments form. So, in order to fill out a pleadings and comments, now, let me just explain real quick. Pleadings and comments are something that really you can file related to any application that is publicly viewable. If you have any objections to an application being granted or an assignment being granted or anything like that, if anything that you want to say basically to the FCC about a particular application, you can file a pleadings and comments. And I think the FCC will get around to it and consider it. So there's a number of fields here that you have to fill out, though. Is this submission being filed on behalf of the committee for the assessment of the foreign participation in the United States telecommunication services sector? You can select yes or no to that. The pleading type could be any of these. Agreement, petition, etc., etc. And you're going to, it's also going to ask you if you want this to be confidential. You can select yes or no. And there's required fields that you have to supply about yourself here. And then there's optional fields as well for contact information. And you're going to select the file numbers here about which your pleadings and comments is being filed. Right. And you also have the attachment section where you can file an attachment just like with the other types of forms. All right. And I guess I can also just quickly demo a couple of more actions here before I bring our demo to a close. There's the withdraw action, where you can withdraw any filings that you've already submitted. You can select these and click withdraw. Let me see, what else do we have? There's discontinue, surrender, and this link is just going to take you to never mind. But yeah, that was pretty much everything I wanted to demo. And now I'm going to, I guess, stop and allow Kathleen to answer any questions that have been raised. I'm sure there have been many.
There are a few. It's the questions, if paying for multiple applications, which will be assigned one remittance ID, once it shows in applications already in cores, will they show individual? I think that's what happens now, Kimberly, but that's a cores thing. I'm pretty sure each of them have their own IB submission ID and will need to connect with the remittance ID. So they should be able to see them all, but then pay for them all at once. Will we be able to print completed versions of our applications with all fields visible? While you're drafting your application, at the top, there are two links right under the title of a form. One is for instructions and one says print form. It should print your form. Well, it'll show it as it'll open up a print window. And you can print it. You're talking about after it's filed. Some version of that same is being created to be attached, just like it does now in ICFS. The form will be there with all the answers.
Correct. So you are going to be able to have a link to your basically a read-only version of this view of your application, and you'll be able to do the same thing.
Okay. But while you're drafting it, if that's what you're asking for, because you're talking about PDF screenshots and stuff that you have to do now, yeah, you print the form. It's going to print whatever's on the page and do what you can. I hope that answers your question. Okay, so how long will draft applications be saved in the system? I do not think we have yet an automatic removal of drafts. We have to do a NARA records retention schedule for this new system. So they'll be there for a long while. At some point there might be we have to remove them based on that schedule. I don't know. I would guess they would be there for a year or two. Can't imagine that we would get rid of them on you in 30 or 60 days. Or they're there until you delete them. The delete option under actions are for filers to delete drafts they don't want to keep in their my filings anyway. And delete is only for draft applications. You can't delete an already filed one. You have to take some other action. And Kimberly, I will have to ask who is filing the consummation. I don't know, once the Schedule A's are signed, other people have access to it. My understanding was we asked for any party to the application to be able to do that, but I haven't tested it, so I don't know. Discontinue is used in TAD forms and ITC 214s. They are the only ones that use discontinue. So it's there, it's an action, but it's not used in satellites. So when conducting an advanced search, how up to date are the filings that are listed? It will list everything that has been considered filed. So I think if it's pending payment, it may not show up. But otherwise it's, somebody filed something a half hour ago, it would show up. The ITs. Okay, so I had one other question, but may be out of scope for this video. Will the ITU notification process be handled over ICFS at all? Or will that remain an issue that is handled by contact with staff? Okay. I don't know the timing. The last question is, does that happen after filing or after the application is accepted? We have not brought ITU into ICFS. So anything That has to do with that. We'll still go through the satellite licensing division. Okay, and it looks like you can see saved drafts in the advanced search returns. You're not supposed to be able to, and I think we have a defect that is to be worked. I mean, you as the owner of that draft, you should see it under my filings. If you haven't filed it, nobody should be able to see your draft. There is a checkbox on the bottom of many forms that if you want staff to look at it while it's in draft, you can give us access by checking the box, and you can remove access by unchecking the box. But nobody besides you should be able to see the draft. And that's all the questions I see. I hope I answered your query. What we're going to be doing is compiling some of these and putting an FAQ together. Don't know how long that'll take, but we're going to do that. And then when this is done and the recording is complete, it will be sent off to the AV crowd to fix up for future use and be uploaded to the FCC YouTube channel. If anyone else has a question, let me know. Else, that was it.
All right, thank you, everyone. So we are going to have our Schedule S demo in 2 hours. So that is a requirement to fill out this SAT application. So yeah, I will see a lot of you there. Enjoy your break.
Thank you all for coming.